Well, friends, some good news. 7 Supreme Court justices continue to band together to tell Donald Trump no to his determination to unconstitutionally deport immigrants. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, it's becoming undeniable. We see a trend developing in Supreme Court cases. In 3 cases now, Supreme Court justices have told Donald Trump, no, stop trying to deport immigrants without their constitutionally guaranteed due process rights of notice and opportunity to be heard in court, so a judge, not you, Donald Trump, can make the deportation decision. The first case was unanimous, 9-0, a clean sweep. All 9 Supreme Court justices telling Donald Trump, no, due process rights apply to immigrants. The second case was 7-2. The third case now just out, 7-2. There is an encouraging trend developing. At least 7 Supreme Court justices seem inclined to honor the constitutional rights of all people. Let's start with the new reporting. This from CNN. Headline, Supreme Court blocks Trump from restarting Alien Enemies Act deportations. And that article begins, the Supreme Court on Friday blocked President Donald Trump from moving forward with deportations under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act for a group of immigrants in northern Texas, siding with Venezuelans who feared they were poised for imminent removal under the sweeping wartime authority. The decision is a significant loss for Trump, who wants to use the law to speed deportations and avoid the kind of review normally required before removing people from the country. But the decision is also temporary, and the underlying legal fight over the president's invocation will continue in multiple federal courts across the country. The justices sent the case at issue back to an appeals court to decide the underlying questions in the case, including whether the president's move is legal, and if it is, how much notice the migrants targeted under the act should receive. Now, friends, I hope you're sitting down, because yet again, there were 2 dissenting justices, and I can pretty much sum up their legal position as Constitution, Schmonstitution. 2 conservative justices, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, publicly noted their dissent. Okay, friends, so let's roll through a few quick takeaways from this new Supreme Court case. First of all, the trial court judge didn't seem particularly interested that the Trump administration was planning and intending to deport some more immigrants in violation of their due process rights of notice and opportunity to be heard. He was just going to kind of let it roll. Here's what the Supreme Court said about that. The district court, meaning the trial court judge, the district court's inaction in the face of extreme urgency had the practical effect of refusing an injunction to detainees facing an imminent threat of severe, irreparable harm. You know, friends, I've got to say, it really is beginning to feel like 7 Supreme Court justices actually care about and are willing to force Donald Trump to comply with the constitutional due process rights of immigrants. And friends, there's another part of the Supreme Court opinion that I want to touch on. Remember how these third-rate DOJ lawyers are going into court and actually trying to sell to the judges that it's impossible for the Trump administration to arrange for the return of these Venezuelan immigrants, including ones that they mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Just impossible. Can't be done because now they're in the custody and control of a sovereign nation, El Salvador. Notwithstanding the fact that we sent them there, we are apparently urging El Salvador to confine them, wrongfully so. They haven't been convicted of any crime, and we are paying with U.S. taxpayer dollars to have them imprisoned in that notoriously dangerous terrorist prison in El Salvador. These attorneys are telling judges, sorry, out of our hands, out of our control, we can't possibly arrange to have them brought back to the United States, which you know is absolute and utter horseshit. Well, it looks like the Supreme Court picked up on that lie, let's call it what it is, because of course we can arrange for the return of these immigrants. And they used that lie against them. Here's what the Supreme Court said about that. The government said it's unable to provide for the return of an individual deported in error to a prison in El Salvador. This means the detainee's interests are particularly weighty. In other words, be careful of what lies you tell in court, because those lies may come back to hurt you in litigation. Now, there's another aspect of the Supreme Court opinion that I want to touch on. It's just kind of particularly juicy. Remember when I said a few minutes ago that two of the justices continue to maintain the position, Constitution, schmonstitution. We don't care about the due process rights of immigrants. And of course, that is Justices Alito and Thomas. So they dissented. Here is what the court, the other 7 justices, in an unsigned opinion, so basically it was joined by all 7. Here's what they said about the dissent of Alito and Thomas. We do not find Alito and Thomas's dissent persuasive. So friends, there's another passage in the Supreme Court opinion that to me sounds like it might be a direct refutation of Stephen Miller's assertion that, the due process doesn't really apply to immigrants, particularly immigrants who might be here without status, unlawfully. Here's the quote from Stephen Miller. Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy wrote on Elon Musk's social media platform, "The right of due process is to protect citizens from their government, not to protect foreign trespassers from removal. Due process guarantees the right of a criminal defendant facing prosecution, not an illegal alien facing deportation." Well, friends, let's look together at one of the most direct assertions in the Supreme Court opinion signed off on by 7 justices. The Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law. So that sure feels like the Supreme Court directly communicating, F you, Stephen Miller. So friends, let's take our wins where we can find them. Let's be encouraged by now a hat trick of 3 Supreme Court rulings telling Donald Trump, no, stop it. The due process rights apply to all persons, exactly as the Constitution states. So as of right now, given the posture of this litigation, there should be no more deportations of Venezuelan immigrants or anybody without due process of law, notice and opportunity to be heard in court so that the judge can decide, not Donald Trump, whether somebody should be deported or not. And the state of this litigation is also such that Donald Trump should be deporting nobody under the Alien Enemies Act. Remember, recently there was a really important ruling by a federal court judge in Texas, Fernando Rodriguez, a Trump appointee, who said, listen, folks, we're not being invaded. We're not under attack by Venezuela, the Venezuelan government, the Venezuelan military. So guess what? The Alien Enemies Act does not apply. Nobody can be lawfully deported. Even if they have all of their due process rights honored, they can't be deported because we're not being attacked or invaded by Venezuela. To which all thinking people responded, duh. So as of right now, Donald Trump is losing and losing and losing on the Alien Enemies Act front, on the deportation front. He can deport people, but he damn well better do it in accordance with the rule of law, in accordance with the Constitution. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.